Welcome to In Case You Forget, a podcast for foster care caseworkers who carry more than anyone sees. If this work feels heavy and follows you home, this is a space to process, reflect, and remember why you said yes. I'm Jami Kaeb.
And I'm Jamie Finn. We're so glad you're here.
All right, Jamie, it's good to be back with you. I'm excited for this episode. It's going to be a little bit different because we are wrapping season 1 of In Case You Forget. And so it's just you and me.
Just the Jamies.
Just the Jamies today. And but we wanted to just kind of talk about some of our favorite moments from this season. Let's maybe start though with, why again we did this. And I'll kind of lead out that I'm just really excited that we have a resource that is created specifically for foster care caseworkers, which is such a small niche in a sense, but also impacting so many people that really so often feel forgotten, feel unseen, aren't recognized. In fact, when people think of foster care caseworkers, often they're thinking bad guy, they're misunderstood, And so it's just so important to me that we are helping the church primarily see these workers as humans made in the image of God, also as very valuable key players in the foster care system.
That's right. Yeah. It makes me think of, what we used to call like the adoption triad, but now call the constellation. That when we think of like the foster care constellation, it's all of these people that are interconnected in really the same central focus of serving kids and families. So this separation of like, well, the foster parents are over here and the bio parents are over here. And the idea of what does it look like for the church, for God's people, for all of us involved in the constellation to serve and love each other well, to humanize each other and see that we're full people with stories and struggles and to serve each other. Like the idea of a sort of rising tide, that as the tide rises, like all of the boats rise with it, that the better that foster care caseworkers are doing, the better our kids are going to be doing. Our families are going to be doing as foster families, the bio family. And it's just this rising tide effect of we are serving the whole community when we're serving the foster care caseworker.
Yeah, right. And we care deeply for the whole community. This isn't like we only care about caseworkers or we only care about foster parents. I mean, you and I both are in this space, and your ministry is primarily for foster parents. Yeah. Our ministry is primarily serving foster care caseworkers. And yet we're doing this together because we both equally, we deeply care about these people, including the other members of the foster care community, that like the birth families. And you and I have both been so impacted by the birth families of our children. And they all matter. And yet in order to strategically and intentionally help one group, we all have to, or it's best when we lean in to kind of the area that God has called us to.
Yeah. I think I first made the connection, a lot of foster parents, or really a lot of people who just enter this space. It's all about the kids, right? We just want to serve the kids. And then my heart started to grow for the families welcoming kids and serving foster families. And then it was like, oh my goodness, the parents, they have these stories and these struggles and they're just like us. And I think that the foster care caseworkers may have been the last for me of learning, oh, right, they too are full people with full stories that God deeply loves and that play a really crucial role in all of our well-being and just that idea of the constellation. Like we are just all interconnected, and the better one of us is doing, the better all of us are doing.
Right. So I thank you personally just for being on this show with me, for doing this project with me, and for caring for caseworkers with me. It's fun. It's special and it's meaningful. So thanks, Jamie.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I will say yes to anything you ask me to do, but especially when it really is aligned with my
Mhm.
heartbeat and with just serving the space that we both love.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so we're excited that we've been able to produce this season. Um, Excited about all of them that have been able to come out, and even
Yeah.
some of the encouragement we've already heard from our listeners and how they've been encouraged, to get a resource that's for them. I mean, didn't you get a message from a worker?
Yeah, so I sent you a
Yeah.
message, but I've gotten a dozen of
Mm.
just people saying, I'm listening, I'm crying,
Mm.
this is so meaningful to me, or I understand my worker better now, or so I love getting to hear like we're faithfully doing something because we hope and pray that it's going to serve. And then when you get to hear how
Yeah.
it's serving, it's just a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, let's talk about some of those moments that really stood out to us in this season. Everyone listening, there's going to be different moments because depending on where they are in their journey or what they're going through, but I'm curious about some of the moments that stood out to you personally and maybe that shifted your perspective a little bit more or just has stuck with you. What are some of
Yeah.
those?
Yeah. I have a bunch and I want to hear yours as well. But the first one I think that sticks out to me is because he is a real life friend,
Mm.
Austin, just hearing and knowing him as an adult now
Yeah.
and loving him and to picture him,
Yes.
he's someone I know and care about. And to picture him as the kid sitting
Uh-huh.
in the courtroom, it just made it really real to me. The impact, the way that he talked about, when this happened in my case, I made eyes with my caseworker. She
Yes.
was the
I was
one
going to
who
say
was
that one too.
there
Yep.
and present the whole time. And
Mhm.
like she was my person and how she made me feel when she took me out for ice cream and she remembered the flavor and it like sunk into my bones.
Mhm.
Oh, these are real kids who really need someone who's there and sees them and loves them and makes them feel special and is a consistent presence in their story of just like, I'm here and I'm with you and I love you. I I think that really hit me of
Mhm.
just how crucial their role is.
Yes. I was gonna say the same because I specifically that moment in court when he looked at her because this was the
Yeah.
person he wanted to celebrate with. And and the fact of I thought of the ice cream too because we just released our new kind of a TFI explainer video, like, to show, like, what TFI does,
Yeah.
and part in that video, it talks about the caseworker and how she knows, those things about me that are kinda silly, but that other people don't necessarily know, and when he said she knows my favorite kind of ice cream, like, it just connected with me again of like, yeah, these aren't big, huge, like, they're not saying, "And she was really good at filling out that paperwork," or
Right,
she
right.
even not even she advocated fiercely for me.
Yeah,
It was she saw me, and she sat with me, and
that's right.
she knew me. I think that
That's right.
encouraged me even just as a mom, but also just in this work of it's so often not these big flashy things. It's the small, meaningful things that says, "I see you, I know you, I care about
Yeah,
you."
yeah, yeah, and the difference it made, I mean, he's a
Yeah.
grown man now, and he's
He still
talking
talks about
back.
her.
He's
Mhm.
remembering that moment, and it just builds my heart for because when I think of court and a foster care caseworker, and I have different narratives. I
Mhm.
don't have the, "Oh, she's my person, and she's here with me."
Yeah.
And so I think that's why, when you're creating something like this, it's like, who's your primary audience? And then
Uh-huh.
who's your secondary? Who else do you
Yes.
hope listens?
Yes.
And I do think that I hope foster parents listen. I hope those involved in this space listen
Mhm.
because the more that we see that foster care caseworkers are people with stories, it will build our hearts for them. And I think that's an important part of this as well.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
the foster care caseworker to hear like, oh, those moments are so deeply meaningful for the kids I'm serving. But for the rest of us to hear like, oh, they don't just bring the bad news. They don't just show up in court. Like they're the ones who are with our kids.
Right.
I think it serves all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
So
so
how about you? What
yeah.
moment?
Well, I think Kimberly, she was actually the next episode right after Austin, but on attachment because you're very well acquainted with the whole attachment
Sure.
styles. I wasn't. And so for
Yeah.
me, it was very eye-opening and interesting to just like hear how the way and so I think something that hit me a lot is it wasn't like however your parents have done it, whether you come out with a healthy attachment or dismissive or avoidant or whatever they all were, it doesn't necessarily mean that you were like in an unloving
Yeah,
situation or,
that's right.
it's not about shaming. It's just like, this is the recipe. I feel like that's what she used. Like this is the recipe. This is what we experienced. And so this is how we know how to navigate the world, and just
Yeah.
how that can impact. Same with Mia shared about her story, how your story impacts how you show up. Also how you've kind of grown attached, your attachment style impacts. So I think just this idea of your past impacts how you show up
Yeah.
to your present. And it's just important that we are self-aware of that.
Hmm.
I thought that was
Yeah,
super
that's good.
important.
Yeah, not that we're stuck there, not that it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is our formed identity now.
Yeah.
Our story is who we are and our attachment style is who we are. But no, this is part of what has made us who we are and who we show up to other people as. And just acknowledging it and knowing it
Yeah.
means that we have an awareness of like how we're tempted and how we're
Mhm.
strong and how God
Mhm.
can use us and where other people might need to fill in the gaps for us. And I thought they both brought such wisdom because they're, well, they're therapists and they're
Yeah.
social
True.
workers and so it's like bringing this like, oh, they know the work, they know the
Mhm.
job, but also they know kind of what's going on in your brain and body and beliefs. And
Yes.
they brought real wisdom.
Yeah. Okay, you pick another one now.
Yeah. I loved talking with Blair.
Mhm.
And she's one of the people that we talk to who doesn't really have lived experience in this space. I mean, I will recommend her first book is about fatherlessness. And so she does sort of have lived experience. But I think the reason I loved talking with her is it's a lot of what God has been doing in my life and my heart. And so
Yeah.
I just felt this like, oh, yes, this is what it looks like to look at the struggles that are happening in our brains and bodies
Mhm.
and not just make them about physical or mental health and not just make them about spiritual or our hearts, but seeing that like taking a walk is just as sort of spiritually healthy as sitting with friends and confessing sin or, being in God's word is just as helpful as sometimes medication and I think just this holistic sort of view of wellness when we're struggling, I think is such an important conversation because
Mhm.
most of us grew up in sort of one or the other, in a very churched sort of everything is about your heart, or
Mhm.
in a more secular mental health, okay, this is just let's treat it. And she really brought such a well-rounded, holistic perspective on it that I
Mhm.
thought was really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Um, I we talked about with Blake about burnout
Yeah.
and kind of the hard side of things when you actually do need to move on. Like
Yep.
part of we wanted to be real in this podcast that there are times that it is appropriate to leave, right? To
Yeah.
leave the role, to step out of it. Not we don't want you guys to leave the role and step out of
Right,
it.
right,
And
right.
yet, we also recognize your whole people and
Yeah.
there are times, but I think a takeaway from me was just this idea that when you leave, when you decide to leave, let's decide to leave in a planful way,
That's right.
not in a like it's done and I've burned out and I'm done. Like,
Reactive.
yeah, when we're
I'm
starting to
spent. Right.
recognize that, obviously let's talk through the things we can do that maybe can help us stay in the game longer. But if it really comes to a point where you're like, I need to move on. Let's do it in a way that honors the child and that gives them someone else that can be trained up and that can make this planful exit, which is just going to be such a different experience for our kids than when just another person is suddenly gone.
Yeah. Yeah. During that episode, I think you were even the one that brought it up, and she very much echoed it. But I think one of the things that really stuck out for me in the entire series was the idea that it's not just about staying, it's about staying well. So like we
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
the stats of turnover and burnout, and we're like, okay, this is our mission. Like we have to keep foster parents in the game. We have to keep foster care
Mhm.
caseworkers in the game. But
Mhm.
that what is actually worse potentially than the quitting is the staying and being jaded, the staying and having a hard heart, not being compassionate, the staying and being unhealthy. And that was really good for me to hear. It's not just about
Mhm.
like retention. It's
Right.
about health. It's
Health.
about
Right.
strength.
Mhm.
And that was an opener for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because just like you're saying, with foster parents or caseworkers, we don't wanna be like, "Yeah, just don't do it anymore. It's too
Right, right,
hard," you know?
right.
But we also wanna be real that, yeah, if you're doing it and you're not in a place of health, we can cause a lot of damage when we stay too long also.
I do think it's a resource. I think it is a way to serve foster care caseworkers to say, hey, I heard this thing. It was created for you. Please listen because I see you and I care about
Yes.
you.
Yes. I just love the thought of, we're like at TFI, we're actually serving caseworkers locally as well as across the nation, but we're not in every community across the nation yet,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah.
And I love this idea that a caseworker anywhere can have an earbud in their ear, right? And
Yeah.
listen and be encouraged and be seen in
That's
the
good.
middle of their messy day, right?
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. Maybe feel less alone
Mhm.
and know that there's a community that cares about them
Yep.
and hear encouragement from just wisdom and God's word. And
Yeah.
that was, I think, what this season brought. And so it really was a privilege to be a part of.
Well, thanks so much for being with me in this
Yeah.
journey and for being my friend.
Yes. Number one.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
If this episode reminded you that you are not alone in this work, share it with another foster care caseworker who may need to hear it. And remember, your work matters, and so do you.
Resonate.